Okay, I'd like to bring the May 20th, 2020 Board of Selectmen workshop to order. As chair of the Milton Board of Selectmen, I find that due to the state of emergency declared, pause it. It's not showing. Ashley?
Nope, what I can show too is, it shows live, but it's you and Ernie's back from the other day. Because you're wearing different clothes. But it has today's date.
It's hot in here.
We can't open the windows though, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have an idea?
Okay,
I'll show you what it looks like just so you guys can see it. It shows that it's live, but it's...
Yeah, that's the same thing yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I was looking up something.
Welcome. This service is provided by free access code or phone number you have dialed.
I wish I knew more about it.
Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Thank you. You are the only participant in the conference.
You all set? Okay, we're going to
The
reboot.
recording has started.
Apparently we're having some issues again with the live stream on YouTube. I'd like to bring the May 20th,
All
2020.
participants are muted and they can unmute themselves.
I'm going to unmute myself. Board of Selectmen meeting to order. As chair of the Milton Board of Selectmen, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. We are utilizing the following for this electronic meeting. Conference call for people who don't have the means to join via computer. All members of the Board of Selectmen have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by dialing the toll-free number 844-855-4444, and upon the prompt, enter access code 145672 and push the pound sign, or by clicking on the following website address: https://join.freeconferencecall.com/Milton TA. The online meeting ID is Milton TA. 2. YouTube town live stream. The town's normal live stream broadcasts on its YouTube channel, which can be accessed from the Milton Town website. Then click on the social media tab. If anybody has a problem joining the meeting remotely, please call 603-545-4956 or email miltonta@miltonnh-us.com. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance.
Andy Rawson.
Erin Hutchings. We have a quorum. Matt Morrill has been excused.
You might want to mention here that it appears that the YouTube live stream is offline, and that if people want to listen, to call the number to.
Again, I'll say that the YouTube live streams appears to be offline, If you would like to participate, you can call the toll-free number 844-855-4444, and upon the prompt, enter access code 145672 and push the pound sign. I'll ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Please note that because this is a business meeting and given the limitations of remote access and in accordance with the governor's emergency orders regarding public meetings and the stay-at-home order, the board will not be opening up public comment or discussion for business meetings. And we're going to start the workshop with the changes to transfer station fees. Pat Smith, please. And please, if you'll use the microphone just to...
Okay, I gave you a couple of weeks ago a packet that had the old transfer station schedule fee in it. I also had a copy of the new transfer station schedule fee. And it had from 2014 to 2020 how many tons we put out in each of the categories with price per ton, or average price per ton cost, and what we paid that year for those different recyclable materials. And also, since you've had this, NRRA has sent out a different or a newer schedule fee that's changed some of the fees that we did not have on here. For example, tires have gone up quite a bit. So basically what we're here for is we hadn't had a fee change since we put the scales in. That must be close to 2014, yeah, 6-7 years I was gonna say. And right now what's happening is things that we were receiving revenues on, we're now paying for, and we don't have it budgeted within the budget to pay for those different items. So we have been taking money out of the revolving account to pay for those things. With no revenues coming in, the revolving account is starting to go down. And we've been trying to put $20,000 aside a year to purchase a truck to replace the roll-off truck, which would be about 2028 when that's gonna happen. I think we got like 60,000 set aside. So if you look at the total amount of the revolving account, that money shows in that we're not using. So again, when the revolving account was set up, it was to do maintenance, which we do all the maintenance on all the equipment out of the revolving account. We maintain the truck out of the revolving account. And we pay different tipping fees that we receive revenues on, like bulky construction, and electronics, all those different types of items that are on this list. And again, if we don't do something to try to adjust, we're gonna deplete that money and then we're gonna end up having to raise our budget to cover the cost. And that's what I don't wanna do. So I'll just go over the new fees. So under the old fees, the sticker was $5. Under the new fee, it'll stay $5. Scale fees, when we first started with the scale, was 8 cents a pound. Based upon the increases in the construction debris and the bulky debris, we figured out the price and we figured we needed to add 2 cents, bringing that up to 10 cents a pound. And then I just want to be transparent and say that this cost also helps pay for the maintenance of the truck, because there's no transportation fee anywhere else. So we
Right.
have to have something. So a couple of cents of that like, is paying for, you know, the truck also. Bulbs, we never charged anything for fluorescent bulbs. Right now it costs us $2 for a 4-foot, and from 4 to 8 feet, $4. So that was a cost that was coming out of revolving account with no revenues coming in. TVs, $5 for a 27-inch. Now it's up to $7.50 for a 27-inch. 28 to 45-inch was $10, or is $10 now. We're proposing $17.50. 46 and up is $20 now. We're proposing $27.50. Computer monitors stay the same at $5. Electronics, the stereos, the VCRs, the DVD players, that type of stuff is still $2. Refrigerator is $10. That hasn't changed. We do have to have a contract to come in to remove all the Freon before we can get rid of that. And I believe we get rid of that as white metal, Lou?
Yes,
White metal?
yes.
So there is a return on that, but we pay, I think, $20 a unit or some, $20 a unit to pump?
$10 a unit. Right now, we're paying $9 a unit, and we charge 10.
Okay, so it's $9 and we're charging 10. So that's staying the same. Tires, 13-inch. We propose, we have paying $1, but if you look at the passenger tires is $2.25, so that's gone up $1.25. And then the tires are the big increase. So what we have proposed, we would have to go back on the price sheet, the new price sheet, because the contractor that hauls our tires just sent, and starting July 1st,
June 1st.
June 1st, we have an increase. This increase will take place. So that NRRA paper that I gave you, those tires, all the different sizes, that's what we have to pay starting June 1st to get rid of tires.
It's a lot.
And then propane tanks staying the same, up to 20 pounds, and 30 to 100 will stay the same. Basically, that's what we're asking to do, is that, you know, we understand that there's, some of them are, you know, $1 to $1.50, $2 changes. But we have to do something because we have to pay to get rid of it.
Right.
So,
I mean, you're still kind of pretty close on what you're, you know, asking, you know, someone to
Right.
pay to get rid of an item in that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not like it's,
so the other thing that it's not, you don't see on here, but paper was a revenue. When you know, you separate paper, that was a revenue. We've been up to $80 a ton to get rid of that just in the last few months. And this is something that changes week to week. We don't know what it's going to be next week. I mean, it could be $150 next week a ton to get rid of paper. And when we take a load out, we're between 5 and 7 ton when we go out with a load of paper.
right.
So that's just one of those things, not budgeted, because it was always a revenue, but you start doing, you know, you start doing 150 ton at $100 a ton, you spend some money.
Right.
So in 2018, at 28.73, we did 134 ton. It cost us $3,800. In 2019, we did 125 ton. It cost us $3,900. In 2020, we've done 115 ton, and we're at $5,100. And and 2020 still could change. It could be anywhere. With COVID, with, you know, nothing moving, none of these commodities are moving, so it's no place to dump it, no place to put it. So this is why we're asking for a price change and asking for a public hearing to do the price change.
I mean, unfortunately, I think it's necessary.
What's that?
I said unfortunately, I think it's necessary. I mean,
Well, again, if we don't adjust our prices so that we can bring in the revenue to pay, then we're obviously gonna have to start putting it into the budget.
right,
So a $200,000 budget's gonna go up
right.
150,000.
Nope, I agree. I hate to even say this, but the sticker, the dump sticker itself, or the transfer station sticker itself.
Right, well, see, there's another way to reduce some of the cost, but it's a program called Pay As You Throw. And so that means that if it's $1.50 a bag to get rid of your trash, you purchase the bag at the store, at town hall, or wherever the town chooses to do that, and the residents pay for using it. It's a user fee versus raising it in taxes. And we were doing, I don't know if that's on here or not. MSW, we're spending, $55,000 to $57,000 a year in MSW. Right now in 2020, we're projecting 675 ton at $90.13 a ton. You're going to spend $61,000 2020 projected, unless there's an increase.
Right.
We're at, again, in 2014, MSW was only $80.80 a ton. So you've got a $10 increase in 6 years. And that's why we laid them this sheet right here, so you could see
Right.
the changes without us really changing a whole lot, trying to let the revolving account absorb as much as it can without raising taxes. But unfortunately, we're at that point now where if we don't do something a little differently, there'll be no revolving account to go back on. And I'm not saying the revolving account is in danger at this time. I think we have, some decent money in there to take care of our equipment. But we got maintenance coming up in the fall. We don't know if we lose a compactor. That's a $40,000 cost
Right.
that would come out of that revolving account if we had to replace a compactor.
Well, personally, I'm not a fan of the pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-throw.
You're not a fan?
I'm not, only because personally for me, it's the bags. I think the bags are not really what they should be. They're not good bags in most of the communities that I've seen this in, and
Yeah,
you
but there's
wind
different
up.
ways to do pay-as-you-throw. You could buy stickers. Got a sticker on the bag,
Right.
you bring the bag in. And the other unfortunate thing with pay-as-you-throw, if you don't want to recycle, you don't have to, because you're paying to get rid of it. So if you want to bring 10 bags to us for, $1.50 a week,
I'm for recycling, so.
but that's what it is.
Right.
It's an incentive to cut back on
Right.
MSW, so you don't have to pay as much to throw that away and recycle more.
Right.
And the other, and while we're talking about that, commingles net, we've been paying to get rid of commingles for quite some time, which used to be a little bit of a return.
Mhm.
Not a lot, but it
Right,
was.
but it was something.
And that's gone up to, it was 100, right?
$120.
$120 a ton to get rid of, a ton of commingles. So, anyway, unless you have any questions, that's what I have for transfer station.
Andy, you got any thoughts?
So it's costing us $120 to get rid of commingles, and what is it? What's the tipping for MSW?
$90.
$90.13.
So, why aren't we doing what other communities are doing? And unfortunately, I know there's other communities that are not accepting, or they're accepting commingles, but it's costing more to get rid of them. Why don't we just? Unfortunately, it's not working right now. Why don't we just put them in the trash? It's cheaper. It's cheaper by $30 a ton.
Listen, you guys can do whatever.
No, I'm asking.
I know. I just know that in the business, that once you
It's
got
cheaper,
your
$10
customer base
No,
doing
he
things
said
a certain
120.
way,
It's 90.
Oh, so this is wrong on here, the commingle, this is wrong? It's 120 for the commingle, not 100?
She didn't get
This was done back before the new
Okay,
price.
so it's
The
100.
prices change from week to week.
Right.
It might be $35 next week.
Right.
I don't know what it's gonna be, and we have to call, every time that we haul this stuff, we have to call and get a confirmation release number. And we get a confirmation release number, that's when we get a slip of paper that says, this is how much it's gonna cost you to get rid of it. So, we can only give you averages, because we don't know
Right.
from week to week.
What's gonna change?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm all for recycling, but right now, I mean, sometimes, you know, I mean, I used to work for waste, and I used to dump whole containers right into, you know, unfortunately.
I think if you start to change things, it's gonna be hard to go back.
Right.
That's just and I'll give you an example. There was a time when they didn't want any glass in the commingles, and they made us take all the glass out of the commingles, so we set up a different container. It was a battle to get people to separate the glass, because they didn't want to do it. And then it didn't last that long, because then they found out that the glass was overburdening all these places that were taking it, because they couldn't put it in the aggregates like they wanted to put it into, because nobody wanted it. And so they wanted it back in the commingles. So it was changing everything all the time,
Right.
causes confusion, and then you have problems. I'm not saying that that's not something we can do, and I agree, it is cheaper, but I'm gonna fill my MSW quicker, and I'm gonna have more trips to, turnkey.
Right.
But
Well, I just know, like, the town of Hudson, they did away with their recycling. I was just reading it.
I think a lot of the people who were doing the single stream probably went away from it quicker than we did, because we don't do single stream. We remove the aluminum cans. Anything we can make money off of, we remove it. They're not getting any of that. So we have aluminum cans that, I think 20 cents a pound we got just today or this week, which is not a lot, but we got 20 cents a pound. So,
Better than nothing at all.
you got $500-600 out of a load of aluminum cans, and
Number one is they try to keep the commingles out of the land. Excuse me. Number one, they try to keep the stuff out of the landfill. The landfills are filling up. Rollingsford, for instance, went with a single stream. Single stream runs about $150 a ton. Rollingsford went back to recycling because it was cheaper. They had a big write-up in the paper, Foster's paper, about this. I read it, and the people are doing good. We also get charged an environmental fee on our commingles, because any place that you go, your commingles are supposed to be rinsed. If it's not rinsed, then they charge us an environmental fee on top of the tipping fee. So now that adds the cost to the cost. Waste management is projecting 20 years. If it does not last 20 years, or even if it does, the closest they can do to get a landfill is the Midwest. And 5 years ago, I went to a meeting, and they're already discussing what can we do when this comes about. They're gonna have to ship it. So they're looking at possibly putting a rail siding in at turnkey and shipping things out. And if we have to start doing that, your price is gonna increase drastically. So this is why I personally feel that it's better off to keep on recycling, to try to minimize the landfill.
No, I don't want to disagree with you. I'm just looking at taxpayers' costs.
And I look at the cost every week. I know it's my budget, but I try to do whatever I can up there and my people to save the residents money.
Thank you.
So,
Can you put this out on Facebook And what the costs are in that, just so people, because you can hear, but people aren't seeing, you know, so just to let them know what might want to update like the tire prices and everything on it, and
Right, but we can
And
put
let's-
this information out.
yeah.
But nothing is going to be changed. until-
Right, until we have a hearing, correct.
So I don't want them to be confused that we've just raised all the prices. and,
Right, that's true.
You know, again, the workshop was so that we could have a conversation
Right,
to try to formulate, you know, a plan how we want to do this. You know, we're trying to keep it as minimal to the taxpayers as we can.
right. And then we run the other part, the chief's back there, but we run the other part with when the prices go up and people don't want to pay to dump it, then they're dumping it alongside the
Right, and
road.
if they get caught, they get a fine, but
Right,
then again, you're gonna have to start raising your budget because your tipping fees are gonna go up.
Right.
Whether they dump on the side of the road or they
Right,
bring
no,
it to the
I-
transfer station.
yeah. Oh,
You're gonna have to, there's just two ways of paying for it.
right,
Tax revenues or, you know, revenues from the
Mhm.
commodities that we,
Nope.
so they're gonna pay for it. If they live in
one way
town,
or another.
They're gonna pay for it
Right.
one way or the other.
No.
Okay?
Thank
Any other
you.
questions?
Nope, but we will
Right, thank you.
set something up. You got anything else?
No, unfortunately, right now, unemployment rate is up is around 16.5% in New Hampshire, and I know this is all tough, but you know, the food pantry is up. Thank God we had that drive and got them some revenue, but
No.
times are tough right now. We don't even know if we're gonna collect taxes, so to run the town. So, you know, it's a lot of tough decisions to make.
We'll schedule a hearing.
Okay.
You agreement? We're gonna have to.
Well,
We're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, you have to
We
schedule-
can't keep eating the cost on,
you have to schedule a hearing, but you also need a vote on this,
Now, that would be at the public hearing though.
on this proposed. Yeah. So, no, I agree. Yeah.
we'll schedule it for, how's that gonna happen?
I mean, it would have to be one of the meetings like what the planning board is doing.
With the
I
Zoom?
think, I mean, you can hold the hearing, you have to have a way for people to call in. You can call in doing this. Hopefully, we'll get that straightened out. You know, it's doing the same thing it was doing the other night, where it looked like it was on live, but it showed a blue sky and that's it, so, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of that. But, you know, as long as you have a way for people to communicate with you, you can do that. And that can be managed through what we're using now. It can be managed through the Zoom platform like Bruce used the other night. I mean, there's several different ones. Nick uses it all the time down at the fire department. We've had staff meetings using it, so it's doable. It's just, you know, not as, people, I don't think like it as much because it's not as easy to do.
Right.
But-
What,
So we
do
can-
you have a calendar? You wanna go ahead and schedule?
So can I just make?
Yeah,
this,
you sure can.
If you have to do other public hearings, maybe let the police chief combine his in, so you do one
Yep.
public hearing?
We can do that. All right. Next up, ordinance update review.
Jump to the one you. Yeah, if you wanna, it'd be good, then I can zip.
Alright, so if you guys are all set, I'd like to jump to number 11, the snow removal ordinance. Just because that's one that Pat may have some input in. set.
How's that?
All right. So the only real change we made to that, I changed the format around a little bit because originally that was listed in the ordinance book as a snow removal policy, but it was given an ordinance number of 2001-03 because there is an ordinance and an infraction portion built into the snow removal policy,
Okay.
which is the parking ordinance that we have put in place and has been put in place for a significant amount of time. For no parking on the roads from December 1st through April 15th from 10:30 at night until 7 a.m. and during declared snow emergencies. So if they happen to have a snow emergency like we have had before on Halloween or something like that, then the no parking on the public roads goes into place prior to the December 1st issues. But we also added to the snow removal policy is the disposal of snow and ice onto the public way from private property. So this turns into quite a big problem. Selectman Ross, and I'm sure you guys run into it on the state roads as well, with people pushing the snow from private property onto the town's right-of-ways and onto other people's property that is directly across the street from them, leaving large snow trails in the middle of the road, not cleaning it up, and then leaving snow and ice in the road, and then people also snow blowing from their yards into the plowed and salted roads, which also causes ice issues and ice buildups and the snow buildups in the road. That wasn't in our ordinances. State law covers class 1, 2, and 3 roads. It does not cover 4 and 5 roads. So for it to be covered into 4 and 5 roads, it has to be a town ordinance. So this is the perfect place for it to be put into because it is part of these snow removal issues that hamper both snow removal for the state roads and for all of our town roads.
And that's it for changes to that policy?
That's all I made for changes to that policy. The fines are listed in the policy in the penalty section of that policy for the disposals. Obviously, first offense would be $250 fine, second is $500, and third is $1,000. As you can see, the wording for that penalty is no person shall allow to be, contracted to be, or personally throw or push snow or ice from the private property onto or across a public way in the town of Milton or Milton Mills. Only exception for this portion of the ordinance shall be if the property owner owns the land across the public way and cleans all of the snow and ice off the roadway immediately after pushing the snow and ice across the roadway. Then it lists out the penalties. Is there any changes that the board would like to see made to that portion of the ordinance or the ordinance in general?
I didn't have any issue with that.
I mean, we haven't had to use the penalties, have we?
That portion has never been
Never
in
been,
the ordinance,
okay.
so that's why we're putting it in here. We have had significant issues with this over the last few years where we have not had the enforcement ability to go out and have that conversation. We can use it if there was a major accident, we could go after them in a different way under reckless conduct and things like that because they caused a reckless condition upon the road. But without the ordinance right now, they can push it across, and unfortunately then I have to make a phone call to Pat and his guys, pull them off a different road to come back and clean it up, or I have to call the state guys and have them come back and clean up what someone has now just pushed into the road where they just cleaned up the road.
Do you have on your copy, have you highlighted the changes that you have made? Because I had a hard time because we got ordinances and a lot of them didn't match with
So you got the
what
old
has
ordinance and then
been.
you got the new updated
But some of
ordinance.
them weren't even, we didn't have like a new ordinance with an old one. There was one about highway damage, I think, or going off the top of my head. We had some stuff that it didn't match up. So I just want to make sure that everything that you have, we have.
You should. The only thing I see in this packet that is not the correct ordinance that would go with the rest of them is the downtown parking restrictions from 2016, December 12th, 2016 with the 2-hour parking. That was an ordinance that was non-enforceable, so
Right.
that was a removed ordinance. So that's the only one that doesn't go with the attached ordinance that are attached to them.
Pat had a question. Or had
The ordinances that I know that we've done since Rich and I have been here have all been signed and gone to the town clerk. So any selectmen signed ordinances, the hard copies, the originals are there in that office. And the book that you might have got some of these out of is not going to be probably exactly the same that's on file.
No, these were an email that we got from the chief
Yeah, an email.
that had like, I don't know, 28 different attachments, I think, to it. And some of them look like ransom notes when
And unfortunately, and that's why we needed
because
to,
they're so,
and that's why we needed to redo them, because some of them are so old that they were literally pulled. Some of them still say the other town's name on it with just Milton written on the top of it.
yeah.
And unfortunately, those are non-enforceable at that point.
But there was some that didn't, I don't think it made it into my, there was one about highway damage that was in there, I can pull it up in my email, that I couldn't find anything that corresponded with it.
I think that may have been one of the ones that was similar to, it was not one that was corrected because it's not one that is in it's in an ordinance that's enforceable. It's not an ordinance that we need to enforce because we can deal with it through criminal mischief or we can deal with it in a different way.
Okay.
So you think, because I think $250 for, I think those fines are kind of steep for me, but do you think you would, moving forward, if this passes, do you think you would, if somebody was, because I get aggravated myself, when people are pushing snow out in the road and you just plowed it, but do you think, maybe you'd tell them the first time that I don't want to see it happen again,
I mean,
or this is what's going
to my officers.
Okay.
Obviously, if it's a small amount of snow that they left thin lines of snow across the road, my officers are not going to just jump right to a fine. They're going to have a conversation with them, say, hey, you're in violation of the ordinance, this is the problem. Now, if they're leaving snow lines that are knee-high, and
Yeah.
most cars nowadays, it's knee-high, it's probably going to rip something off of that car when you hit it with
Yeah.
snowpack that's
Yeah.
high. You're probably getting a fine first time we roll out to see you.
Okay.
Because you've either caused damage to somebody's vehicle or you've put a environment in place that can cause damage to somebody's vehicle. If you feel the fines are too high, what would you like to see the fines?
No, I just, I don't know. I just think $250. You know what? Never mind. No, now I'm thinking. No. I just got thinking sitting here, and no, I think that's fine because I
and that's why we're having this meeting to
Yeah.
have this conversation before these go out to legal, and then legal reviews it, and then we have.
No, because I
whatever
know how
public hearing we
frustrating
have
it
to
is, and someone can seriously get hurt. That's what I'm just sitting here
Get
thinking.
killed if they-
Someone could,
in
we'll
a
get
high-speed
killed.
area,
Yeah.
if a car's coming 45
Oh.
miles an hour and they don't know that's there and they hit that,
Mm.
the car goes in the air or goes
Yeah.
sideways,
Yep. No, you're right.
you know?
Yep. Okay. No, I'm fine.
I'm fine with what happens with the funds though? I've seen different things, like some of the older ordinances, when you read on those old manual typewriters, it says like, goes to the town of Milton, some says goes to the general fund,
So all ordinance fines would come back to the town and go back into the general fund.
okay.
Same with like
The
all
way-
the parking tickets.
Yeah, the way they're ultimately listed on the GL account is, they're listed at, I believe, under police revenue.
On
It
the-
all falls under police revenue, so anything that comes, so if an officer goes to court and the court's refunding us, the court's fees for that goes under police department revenue, those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the newer ordinances, it doesn't say what happens with the
Correct.
funds.
Because all ordinance that come back to the town would go into the general fund.
Okay.
If it does not say that it's going to a specific location, then they automatically go to the general fund.
Okay.
Unless there's a different avenue that you would like to have it put, and then we
Nope.
have to run it by legal, and then legal could make a decision as to whether or not it can legally go into that position.
No, I just noticed it said it on those, and I didn't wanted to make sure that the changes that we're making reflect everything that's in the old ordinance, converting over to the new, so. I'm trying to match all these up here.
Chief, this is what she's looking at, that's the list of the PDFs that I have, and then there's a list of the Word documents that came with them.
Right, so the PDFs are what I got from the town clerk.
Right.
So we've already established that the 2016 2-hour parking in downtown is not enforceable because that's a state highway.
That was a state
and
highway.
we have no rights to.
We can't put
do that,
time
okay.
limits. So the reason, when we get to one of the other ordinances, I'll explain why we have the right to do the line and
spot
parking
ordinance.
spots.
Okay.
Because we did get permission from the state to do that. The
Okay.
2-hour parking one, we didn't get permission from the state before we tried to put the 2-hour parking in place for those certain spots.
Okay, I'm looking at Milton ordinance for heavy over road traffic. That sounds like a Pat one.
So I didn't touch that one because that was a new ordinance that you guys had done, what we did 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
2018. I didn't make any changes to that one. So that's why you don't have that as a Word document.
So is it something that we have to do though, because it was in with these documents? It was just
No.
inadvertently put
So
in?
the PDFs
Mhm.
are all just what I received from
Okay.
the town clerk tax
Okay.
collector that were
So
scanned
the
in
only,
and given to me so I could review those ordinances to see which ones I felt needed to be changed now and
Okay.
which ones we needed to work on.
all right,
So the only one of that list of the PDF that I'm still working on is the ordinance for vehicle noise.
okay.
That's the only one that is still being worked on by myself. The Milton vehicle usage policy, that's not an ordinance, so it shouldn't be in the ordinance book in the first place. That's an internal workings policy for the town, so that
Mhm.
shouldn't even be in the ordinance book.
All righty.
You know, I'm fine with 11.
Okay.
All right, you want to go back to the beginning?
Sure.
No.
Oh, yeah, actually, why don't we do that? So why don't we do the parking ordinance number 9, and then Pat can get out of here. So this is the one where you don't have the old, you don't have the copy of the old ordinance, you have the incorrect old ordinance with you.
I have a whole slew of old ones out there, I just wasn't sure which one to put.
That's fine. So the old ordinance for the parking covered White Mountain Highway from Dawson Street until Depot Pond Road, that block of White Mountain Highway on all those line spots. It made it so that no one was able to park on the paved portion of that road unless they were in a line spot. If they were parked outside of a line spot, it was a $25 fine. We then did the lining of Milton Mills, which I believe the board approved that last year.
They asked us to look into the parking because of Ira Miller's
Correct.
opening up, and we went up there and designed the parking for the area and laid it all out and painted it out, and works good. I mean, so
So now that that is lined and marked, we have to add that to the ordinance to be able to enforce making people park only in those line spots. We have had some problems where people are parking, so you will see that the new portion of the ordinance for Milton Mills goes from basically right in downtown, where downtown starts at Western Ave, and it goes all the way up to Jug Hill at Western Ave. So that's the problem, is we're having a lot of problems with people parking in the narrow areas as you climb up and get out of the downtown section of Milton Mills. So you have sweeping corners by the fire station, you have different areas as you get closer to the intersection of Western and Hopper on Jug Hill Road, that cars really shouldn't be parking next to the sidewalk or on either side of the road, because you're causing issues with people having to go around blind corners. Yes, it's only a 30-mile-an-hour road, but people shouldn't be parking on the roads. So that's why in this ordinance, we made it marked so that you could only park in the line spots. The line spots are near all of the businesses. We have them in front of the post office, we have them in front of Ira Miller's, and it hooks all the way around to the corner. The garage has enough parking spaces in front of his business and in his business, so does the library. They have enough parking spaces for all of their customers that are gonna come and visit them. And then the secondhand antique store that's on the corner, he has parking that's lined for him as well. So I don't think those are going to be issues that if we set this ordinance in place, that those are the only parking that you're gonna do in those spots. Obviously, if you feel that you want the ordinance to just end where the parking spots end, we can make the wording change, and so that the wording is changed from there, and it pushes out that way as well.
So let me ask you this. Say the Memorial Day Parade in downtown Milton Mills, or it's in Milton Mills, and people park all up and down across from the Wakefield Garage, all up and down that road.
We've closed the road down at that point.
Okay, so
So we're
that's
not
not gonna be an
enforcing
issue.
those parking issues when we have a parade going
Okay.
on, things like that. Because we've shut the road down, we're letting people park in those types
Okay.
of places. It's when we have traffic free flowing through those areas that we have to control where people are parking.
So what are you gonna do though, if somebody has a barbecue at their house on the weekend and they're parking up those roads? I mean,
Unfortunately, we're gonna do the same thing we do with
You're gonna
the
have to
few
enforce
houses
it.
that are down here. We go and we knock on their door and we tell them you have to move your cars. And if they don't move their cars, unfortunately, we start ticketing and then we start removing it. It has to get to that level. Thankfully, it doesn't get to that level.
Right.
We have a conversation, they understand it, they move their cars. Because they see, just like down here on White Mountain Highway, it's the same problem in the mills. Once people start parking in those narrow areas of the road, there's no room for two-way traffic to be going through. So when we have heavy weekends for two-way traffic is stopped. And then you start to run into issues, and you start to run into people getting angry, and then you have other headaches that we really don't need to have, where it's just because people are parking where they shouldn't be parking. And like I said, I have no problem with changing the wording on this to make it so that it only goes from Jug Hill and Water Street, or excuse me, Main Street and Water Street to Jug Hill at Main Street, where that Church and Main Street, where the intersection ends, that's where the painted spots end. Past that point, up the hill from Jug Hill to the intersection with Western Ave, that is a problem for us. And we do have people parking on corners and those types of things. We can deal with it the way we've been dealing with it, with telling people they need to move their car, because we do have the RSA to advise them to move their car. If they don't, we can deal with it that way as well.
but it's really 6 to 1, half dozen the other.
Correct.
Which way it's done.
We're still going to deal with it one way or the other. If we have an ordinance in place that has signs on both ends, it decreases a lot of the issues. Down
Right.
here, for the residents who remember when I first started here in town and this ordinance went in place, we used to have a ton of problems here. You couldn't drive through 125 without trying to slalom around cars, because there were cars parked all through the narrow area. And it just made a mess, and that's why this had to go in place, so that we could open that area up and allow free flow of traffic through downtown.
I don't have any do you have any problem with that one, Andy?
Yeah. Nice.
Good night, thank you.
All right, so you ready to go back to the top?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was looking forward to this one. I'm like, oh, cool, let's do this one next.
Which
Go
one?
ahead. It just the one right after that.
Oh, the school zone or the
Actually, the one above that.
alcohol possession?
That one just, the pool hall. The operated pool room on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. which we didn't even add.
I was wondering if that one's been rescinded since,
So
or,
that's a portion that you guys will have to rescind, the pool hall one. We don't even have a pool hall in town hall any longer. So that's why it's, the only thing that we pulled out of that is the school zone speed limit ordinance. Because the speed limit ordinance for the school zone and the pool hall were put into the same ordinance. So we pulled them out separately, so you'll have to rescind the pool hall portion of the ordinance and have the school zone ordinance by itself. So we can do that one.
and wouldn't Three Ponds Tavern maybe count as a pool hall? Or no?
I believe this pool hall is, the pool hall ordinance, I believe, is Selectmen's Hall.
It says all pool rooms in the said town of Milton will not be permitted to operate after the hour of
On
11
some
p.m.
days, yeah, it does say all
So-
pool halls, so
Will the
I
Mo-
don't know
Will
if
the
that
Moose,
would
does the
be-
Moose have, the Moose have?
Right,
pool
and how
table?
does that work? Because that's a private club also, so
So
it's probably one that needs to be rescinded.
it just needs to be rescinded. I mean, we're not gonna, I don't believe that's what you want, is us to be enforcing shutting people down on Sundays.
Or at 11 o'clock, and I don't think there's much happens after 11 inches, but.
But as you can see, that's an ordinance from 1966.
Right.
Yeah, I was just reading it, yeah, it's funny.
So we can put that one on to
$5
rescind.
fine.
Yeah, $5 fine, 1966.
Oh, God.
So why don't we go ahead and get the school one out of the way since it's right there?
Okay.
Are you good with rescinding that one, Andy?
Yeah.
So for this one, we had to correct a couple of things. So state law allows us to drop it only 10 miles an hour from the posted speed limit. As you can see from the ordinance in 1966, it dropped it to 15 miles an hour was the posted school zone speed limit. State law doesn't allow us to drop it that far. We can only drop it 10 miles an hour. And we can only drop it 10 miles an hour 45 minutes prior to school start and 45 minutes after school closes. The other thing we did is I wrote into the ordinance which areas were currently posted as school zones. So anyone who has a question on which areas are currently posted as school zones, they can see it directly in the ordinance and know that 45 minutes before school starts and 45 minutes after school ends, your speed limit in those areas is 20 miles an hour. If they are to be stopped in those areas, they will be issued a citation under New Hampshire RSA for speeding in the school zone.
And do you have, it says under RSA, but there's no number?
I have to put that in there because they are changing the fine schedule on that a little
Okay.
bit. They did earlier this year. So they changed the fine schedule a little bit on that, so I'll get you the exact RSA.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that before I put the exact RSA in there, that the fine schedule, when they changed it, didn't go over here into a penalties section and actually did stay in the fine schedule for the speed limits
Okay.
of school zones.
Alrighty. I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. You ready to just go to number one?
Number one.
Can I ask you, I'm sorry to back up on that one, is that the same RSA reference up here in this block as that block?
Yes, they will be the same.
All right.
So the air rifles ordinance is from 1984. The only changes I made to this was to add the compact portions of Milton Mills as well. It only states Milton in the original ordinance, it doesn't state Milton Mills. And I added a second offense and a third offense fines to the provision of it. Which again, we can remove those and just have a singular offense, singular fine, if that's what you want.
Whatever.
I mean, $100 fine for not a fine of not less than $100 for any offense of using an air rifle within the compact zone. It's a pretty steep fine, but that's completely up to the board. If you want to do a second and third offense, then we can leave those in there. If you don't, and you want to leave it as $100 only, that's fine with me as well.
I'd say leave it as you've got it written.
Okay.
I mean, if they don't want it the first time.
I mean, we can change it that fine not less than $100 and up to $1,000, because it is technically
Right.
falls under the rules for a violation. So that would leave it up to the court. If we have subsequent offenses by the same person, then the court can make the determination as to what they want to give that person for a fine. And they can leave it either at $100, or the court can fine them as high up as the court decides, up to the $1,000.
Andy, what do you think? Up to, or do you want to leave it as the?
What do you recommend?
For me, as someone who likes to be able to look at something and go, okay, well, I get in trouble once, it's going to cost me $100. I get in trouble twice, it's going to cost me $250. I get in trouble a third time, it's $500, and if I get in trouble a fourth time, it's going to cost me $1,000. I like to see that aspect of it, but if you are someone who likes to leave it to the argument of the person who's in trouble, and they like to have that argument ability to argue it in front of the judge to say, Your Honor, yep, this is my third time here in front of you doing this. Can you please just give me another $100 fine? We can do that as well. I don't have a problem with that either.
I'm like you, 100, 250, 500. I know.
Yeah, just,
like-
yeah, that's
I
fine.
know if I.
I like to
What
be
is
set.
gonna, right.
Yeah, at least you know there's no
I like my
gray.
fees.
Right.
Yeah,
I like to
Right.
know up front what I'm getting
Right.
charged when I
screw up.
call somebody. Well, when I call somebody to fix my furnace, I call them the first time they come to fix my furnace. If I break the same thing and I call them again, I expect it to cost me a little more because I probably just broke something again.
Yeah. No.
But I expect to know what my fees are going to be before.
Right, up front. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So the dog ordinance, it's changed, all I did was change the wording a little bit to animal control ordinance, because the original ordinance called it dog leash law. But as you can see in the old dog ordinance, the dog leash law ordinance, it actually talks about restrained, nuisance, menace, a dog bite. It talks about all of the issues, and then when it goes into the actual fine areas, it talks about unlicensed, running at large, nuisance dog, menace dog, and vicious dog. So the ordinance breaks down what they all are from the ordinance from 1994, but the title of it is dog leash law.
Right.
So it leads you to believe that it's solely
About a-
for a leash law, but in actuality, it's actually the whole dog ordinance for the entire town.
On page 2 though, Chief,
Yep,
the part about no person shall jump or free fall.
yes, that paragraph has got to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you want to change that from person to dog.
No, that paragraph has to come out, I just drew.
I figured it was just like a copy and paste.
And then the penalty section has to
Yeah.
come out of that too, because that's the penalty section from something else, because we're not writing people a $150 fine or a $250 fine for not licensing their dog.
How are we doing with that though? Not to change the subject, but to change it. How
We
are
haven't started this year yet.
No, but from last year, you got it.
We have the warrants. The warrants are written for the people who didn't license their dog for last year.
No.
So if you didn't license your dog last year, the police department has a warrant for you, unfortunately.
It's not very many though, is it?
No.
Okay.
I think it was 17.
That's not too
Like
bad out of the
17 people.
numbers, right?
It's not good neither.
No, but
It's
it's
not
better
good,
than,
but
but it's better
It's
than
better
it
than,
was.
I think it was 300.
Yeah.
Was when you guys signed the warrant list. So 300 down to 17 is pretty good. So the animal control ordinance doesn't change a lot inside the ordinance. It breaks it down a little bit better. So we have the definitions in one area, what a nuisance dog is, what a menace dog is, who has the authority to enforce the ordinance, and then it breaks down the fines. It brings the fines to the appropriate level of where we have them currently on our fine schedules. And it matches them up better than what the original ordinance did on our fine schedules.
And you said the fines on the penalty part, you're gonna remove that last part
Yeah,
and
the
put it as
the last
listed
two
above?
paragraphs are gonna show
Okay.
the no person shall jump, and then the penalty section is gonna
Okay.
come out. That's just-
Totally come out, okay.
Yeah, that's a typo on my
Alright.
part. So in the ordinance, the way it works, so like a nuisance dog or so a nuisance dog would be a dog that bites somebody as well on the fine schedule, on the citation we give out to someone. The way that works is if it's first offense, $25, second offense is $50. Dog bite. Looks like the dog bite got deleted when that paragraph got put in. So dog bite is actually $100 first offense, and $200 second offense, and third offense goes to court. So third and subsequent offenses go to court for a dog bite. And so that, yeah. So it looks like when I was carrying that over, it looks like I must have deleted the dog portion, the dog bite portion, so I'll update that for you and get that back to you. Because that is missing from the
So that would be
ordinance.
the vicious.
That would be vicious dog, yep.
Just so you know, too, at the very end, any owner or keeper of a do found. I'm just, so we get all our ducks, just, it's no big deal, it's just showing you.
Just a typo.
Yeah. I'm sure you're gonna look at all this anyway, so.
All right, I'm good with that, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
I will update the match, so those match our citations that we issue out for dog fines. And then we can move forward on those.
Bridge jumping.
So the bridge jumping ordinance is from 2013 when it was most recently updated. I didn't have the one before the 2013 one, so I don't know when the original one came out. So the bridge jumping, it does put in what the bridge jumping is. It also puts in there the Milton Mills portion of bridges that we have here in town. It also changed, so because when Townhouse Bridge came out, we had people jumping off of the bridge abutments instead of, when we removed the bridge deck and structure and everything else, they were then climbing the abutments and jumping off of those. So we had other issues that we had to, so those are all added and corrected into the ordinance. I didn't change any of the fines that came off of the ordinance from 2013. First offense is still not less than $100, $250 for second, $500 for a third, and $1,000 for a subsequent.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Andy?
Seems like an expensive jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
What if they, I mean, on the bridge right down here, going, they can go, what if they go half over into Maine?
So the line is actually not half over. The line is actually significantly further over
Okay.
than most people think it is.
All right.
We own a lot more of that bridge than a lot of people think we do.
Okay. I was just asking.
That's a narrow bridge, I shouldn't, I know they do it a lot,
Mm.
because I go back and forth that way to work, but, it's a narrow bridge, and they get out there, it's scary,
The amount of debris that's under that bridge too,
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty deep, but the amount of debris that's under there, I'm amazed more of them don't cut their feet and have more issues when they jump into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
So the next one is
Parks.
closing of parks. The original ordinance was from 1984. The problem with the original ordinance was it put a time that it closed the parks, but it didn't have a time that it reopened the parks. So they closed at 9 p.m., but it doesn't show a time that they're supposed to reopen. So I put 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. If the board would like to move that to 6 a.m., I'm fine with that. It's sunny. The sun's up at 6 a.m. in the
Right.
summertime, so
it's up at 4:45.
yeah. So if the board would like to change that to 6 a.m., I'm fine with that, or even a time different than that as well. I'm okay with that. I just think that it's usually dark about 9 p.m. There's no real reason for anybody to be in our parks after those hours because we've closed them down at that time.
Mhm.
And that's what the ordinance has been. So,
I think it's fine, because I mean, it's not, always summer and sunny, so 7 AM is,
and then the other portion I changed on that, I brought the fine to $50 instead of $25.
The only thing with this is if people like fishing or want to go fishing or, it's a lake. It's what people do.
I understand that.
I mean, I don't think it's a
If somebody's
hassle if somebody's out there fishing.
No,
You're not gonna go out there, and if they're out there fishing.
well, truthfully, if they're standing in the water,
Yeah,
they're not on town property.
right,
The problem they're going to run into is when they walk across town property to get back to their vehicle.
right.
So obviously that's an issue. We'll have that conversation with them. We'll explain to them what the problem is and that there's an ordinance in place. Again, my guys are pretty lenient on a lot of things. They're not going to find the guy, woman, child, whoever it is, who's standing in the water fishing, and obviously just fishing. We're not going to have that problem there. It's the people that are sitting in the middle of the park at midnight and either smoking cigarettes or drinking beer or whatever else they're doing while they're sitting in the middle of the park that we have to deal with.
Right. Right. No, I totally understand.
Do you wanna move it back to 6? Oh, or-
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
was just gonna say, I was just checked YouTube, although there's no pictures, still that one's a still shot, it is broadcast. So that's good.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, no, I wouldn't mind seeing it move back to 6.
Okay.
If it's an
Nope,
ammunition.
that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, we can also put sun up. That's the other way to do that. I know some communities have dusk till sun up,
Yeah.
but for me, again, I'd
Right.
like to have just a solid number.
Right,
If you have a solid number, it just tells
you
everybody,
can't argue.
this is when the park is closed.
Right,
Yeah. I think that's the way Pierce Island is in Portsmouth. It's dusk to dawn, or
Yeah.
yeah.
And that, I think that's what, oh yeah, my brain's working today. Out by Newark's, I think it's dusk to dawn,
Yeah.
that park as well.
Hilton.
Hilton Park, there.
Yeah. All right, no, that's fine.
Loitering.
Alright, so the loitering one, we just had to clean up a few words in the loitering one, and then make it a little bit easier and make it look similar to the other ordinances. The loitering one is more loitering based. It's not loitering and prowling. It falls under the state RSA. This is if someone is just literally just standing and leaning up against somebody's house and they don't have the right to be there. They are leaning up against somebody's car on the public way and the person doesn't want them there and they just refuse to get off the car, and are doing things like that. Or they're leaning up against a storefront when the store owner has asked them to move and they have no valid reason to be leaning up against that storefront and just causing problems there. This is what that is for.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just raising the fine also on that, right?
The fine went up from 25 to 50, yes.
Okay.
And that was an ordinance from 1981.
I'm good, you,
Oh, yeah.
And this one, loitering and prowling, loitering, the first offense is a warning. So they get a warning. If they don't move on after that, then they get the $50 fine. If they don't move on after that, then unfortunately it can turn into a disorderly conduct type issue and those types of things.
Yep.
Obviously not the route we want to take. It's
Mhm.
routes we want to just have the conversation with people, but we'd rather have the conversation and then say, look, this is what you're in violation of. Please just do it and
Yeah.
we can move forward.
one-way traffic.
So the one-way traffic, this just, the only change is just making it look like the other ordinances and making it a little cleaner so people, when they read through it, they can understand where the one-way road is and what the exceptions are. And that ordinance went in place in 2003.
Do you really have to put on the exemptions, I mean, actively pursuing a violator?
Unfortunately.
Really? Okay.
Under state law, we're allowed to still
Well,
go up that way,
right.
but to cover the town and to cover us, yes, we put it into the ordinance. That way, it's an exception of the ordinance. That way, no one can come back and say, well, guess what? Your police officer violated the ordinance when he was chasing that violator who drove the wrong way on the water.
I'm good. You good?
Oh, yeah.
Alright, so consumption of alcoholic beverages ordinance. So in this one, we cleaned it up, made it look like the other ordinances. We put in with the definition for the definition chapter, the RSA chapter, for alcohol, and we did not, I didn't go in and put in the definition each individual public park or things like that, because it just has to be a public area, like a municipal or public parking lot, public beaches, public parks, public recreation areas, those types of things, inside any vehicle on any of, listed in any of the areas above, and then inside or on any motorized boat, vessel on a public waterway within the town limits. So that is an addition. Number 5 is an addition to the original ordinance.
And back to number 4 again, it's basically semantics, but it says A, B, or C, and it should be 1, 2, 3, you know.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, so you might want to just change that.
Yeah.
And also, this ordinance maybe, it,
2 words.
right, it should be,
Yep.
yeah. And that's in a lot of them, I forgot all about that too.
Yep.
And again, it's just type,
Just a typo.
but maybe. Maybe shall would be.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. That's it according to my list.
So, I guess my question on number 5, provision number 5, because when we have the public hearing on that, that's the one we are probably gonna take the biggest beating on. Inside or on any boat or motorized vessel upon a public waterway within the town limits. So that would be open containers by anyone on the boat. Some communities set it as open containers by anybody on the boat. Some communities set it as open containers on the boat while it's moving, and some set it as the operator of the boat. I don't care how we put it. I just feel that there has to be something put into the ordinance that we're controlling and making sure that we don't have basically party boats out there driving around with the operators drinking and driving at the same time as they're driving their boat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if that's the way you put it, then I'm fine with it. For me, I mean,
You're right, that's gonna be a huge issue. I don't have a boat, and I'm not a drinker really, so
I'm
I
not
would
either,
say-
so.
personally, I would say the operator. I mean, just common sense.
Mhm.
although, I mean, how does it work in a vehicle?
Anyone.
Anyway, right.
So any person who's in a vehicle can be issued a citation for an open container of alcohol.
But how are you gonna stop it? You know what I mean? You'll be out there, be crazy.
Mhm. And I mean, the other way we can put it is while the boat is in motion. So if the vessel is in motion and the operator or any other person in the vessel has an open container, then they could be issued with the open possession and consumption of alcohol based on the ordinance. That makes it a little more pointed, that if they're anchored and parked and people on the boat are consuming an alcoholic beverage, probably not as big of an issue. And hopefully the driver is still not the person that's consuming, even when the boat is parked. If you're the driver, you can't consume while the boat's parked, and you can't consume while the boat is in motion.
Because it's the same as a DUI
It
on
is.
the land as it is
Correct.
on water,
Yep.
correct? Okay.
So if you're the operator of the boat and you are consuming while you're in motion or while it's parked, then you could be issued the citation. If anyone is consuming while the vessel is in motion, that can be issued as well. And then as I'm reading this, it says any boat. So I think I would remove any boat and just leave it as a motorized vessel. So that way, because if we leave it as any boat, then technically like a kayak or a paddled canoe, they can get a ticket for paddling their canoe with an open beer.
I'm glad we're not.
Yeah. No,
I'd like to see the person that can paddle a kayak, and I'm
And
not that
drink at the same time.
coordinated,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, I'd be swimming alongside of it.
Exactly.
But-
Really, the biggest thing is what we're trying to do with this ordinance is trying to
Clean it up.
not have people consuming alcohol while
Right.
they're operating a boat
Right.
in our waterways. We're trying to keep our waterways safer, and we're trying to make sure that these things are not occurring.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, I like number 5, you know, because now we have the new campground. You know, people are more apt to be doing what they're not supposed to be doing, and it's for everybody's safety, really. We had issues out there last year, you know.
And we've had issues on the public waterway, and
Mhm.
that's the problem. It's a public waterway. It's not a private waterway, so
Yeah.
there's anybody who launches can go on the public waterway. And the last thing we want to have doing is people who are consuming large amounts of alcohol or consuming any alcohol and then operating the boat. So if we have this in place, it's a little more knowledge to them, hopefully, that, look, if the PD sees you as the driver with it in your hand, and then we drive by again, and we're giving you a ticket, we're going to pull you over, we're going to give you a ticket, and then we're going to have a different conversation as well, that hopefully you're not intoxicated, and then we have to arrest you for driving the boat while intoxicated. It's not to try and make people not want to come to our lake. That's not in any way, shape, or form what I'm trying to do here. I'm not trying to do anything in that nature and trying stopping people from having a good time on the water. We're just trying to make sure that people are safe while they're having a good time on the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I agree. So,
Which part?
I mean, I agree.
Leaving it stationary or no alcohol at all, or that's going to be a problem and it's going to raise a ruckus, and people are going to say that they pay a lot of money to live here and live on the lake, and if they want to go out and have a couple cocktails on their boat at night, then they should be able to do that. And, I mean, it's like anything, It's,
But on the other side of the coin, there's a safety.
oh yeah,
And that's why we can word this in many different ways to try and go after the safety aspect of it. We can write it as no open containers while the vessel's in motion, and that the operator of the vessel cannot consume alcohol while the vessel is stopped or while the vessel is in motion. We can make those provisions into that, and we can deal with it that way.
I mean, to get a boat license, these are the things you have to go through anyways. I mean,
It's just similar to a driver's license.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get a DWI on the water, you get it affects your DWI, your driver's license to drive a motor vehicle.
right.
It's the same exact thing as if you get a DWI when you're driving a car. So those are the aspects of that it allows us to enforce the safety aspects on the water a little bit more, is basically what it does. Again, my officers are not going to be out there driving
Right.
around with binoculars looking
Right.
for every single person who has a red Solo cup and watching what they dump into that red Solo cup. we're going to enforce it the same way we do with motor vehicle. We see infractions, we deal with the infractions. So if you're somebody who's not committing infractions, you're not somebody doing something wrong, the likelihood of my officers or even another officer from another department rolling up on you on the water is probably small.
How does Marine Patrol deal with this issue?
There is no state law on this. The communities have to do it in their ordinance levels. So there's boating while intoxicated law, but there is no law. They didn't create a law on the water for open container. So communities have to deal with it on their own. If they decide they don't want to deal with it on their own, then that's how they deal with it. If they decide they want to deal with it on their own, that's how they can deal with it through local ordinance.
I think I prefer the, when the boat's not in motion, they're, then, you know, not the driver, but the occupants of the boat
And the
would
occupants
have
of the
a
boats
beer. But,
of legal age.
right, yeah, then you gotta have, then you throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean,
So do you want it to be a motorized vessel only?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much a safe bet. And if you find that kayaker out there, let me know.
mm, so in closing, I just want to. I gotta find it again. Come on, Andy. So what is it? What did we come up with?
For number 5.
Yeah.
So we're going to change it to motorized vessels only, and we're going to change it to no person shall possess an alcoholic beverage while the vessel is in motion, and that the operator of the vessel may not possess or consume an alcoholic beverage while on the vessel.
Okay. Okay.
You good with that?
Yep.
So I'll change that wording into it, and then.
And you'll send them back out to us
Yep.
without all those PDFs?
Yep. Yeah,
Make it clear.
I'll send these back to Ernie with just the
Or-
new ordinances.
Okay, thank
I
you.
won't send you with the whole PDF.
Okay, good, thank
folder.
you.
Just the new ordinances.
I appreciate it.
No problem, and I'll see if I can get the vehicle noise one done kind of quickly. One of the other ordinances that we're about a month away from people that are gonna start calling you all on it is the fireworks ordinance. We obviously don't have a fireworks ordinance in the town of Milton. I'm not saying we need a fireworks ordinance in the town of Milton, but I know you guys get a lot of phone calls on fireworks. I can tell you right now, we don't have a huge issue with fireworks in this community outside of 4th of July.
Right.
So that window of the 4th of July, we have an issue with fireworks. But really, in my opinion, is it an issue for fireworks?
I
No,
enjoy it
because
myself.
everybody on the 4th of July, if we were trying to write tickets on the 4th of July for every single ordinance, we'd be going to a whole bunch of houses.
Right.
The other side of it, there are some communities that make you get a permit from the police chief to set off your personal fireworks that you bought legally at the New Hampshire fireworks store. I'm okay with that as well. If that's an ordinance you guys decide you would like to see, I can get one, I can get a copy of one from a different community and we can start working on it. It's not one that I feel we need at this point because I don't feel it has risen to the level outside of the 4th of July couple of weeks that we really need it. We have had a few complaints about tannerite usage. You guys know what tannerite is, the exploding targets. I call it tannerite just because tannerite's the name everybody knows. It's not the only one out there for the exploding targets. So we have had a couple of complaints on those. My opinion, those fall under the same as a firework, because after you mix them up, they do the same thing as a firework. They are legal for people to purchase, they are legal for people to use, but in my opinion, they are different than just regular target practice when you're just shooting your firearm. When you're just shooting your firearm, everyone has the expectation that a firearm makes a bang.
Right.
They don't have the expectation that when you're out target practicing and shooting a piece of paper or shooting a singular silhouette target or even a steel target, that all of a sudden you're going to get this huge explosion noise after you just shot that target as well. So if we ultimately do end up having to do some type of firework ordinance, my suggestion would be to build in something into there that deals with the tannerite issue as well. It's been a small window of complaints, and they've only recently started coming into the police department. I think we've dealt with a couple of them, and hopefully we won't continue to have those problems. But if those start to build up and we start to get more of them, we may have to look at that in a different way.
Okay.
It's not something that we want to have to, but we may have to look at them a different way. I know in the past you have wanted, Selectman Rossman, you have wanted to look at the noise ordinance in and of itself and change a few things in the noise ordinance, because currently the noise ordinance is only for amplified sound. So it's basically for music or for anything that a person with a bullhorn or those types of things, or a vehicle that has a loud exhaust or is blaring their music from their car. That's our current noise ordinance. Our current noise ordinance does not have a time frame on it. So it's not 10 to 7, that it doesn't have a quiet time, which is what a lot of people think it does. It's open-ended. So it can be noontime and someone calls in a complaint on you're playing your music too loud, then the police department comes out and we deem what is reasonable for those hours. If we come out at noontime and we're at the front of the house and we can't even hear the music, we're not telling somebody to turn it off. Just because you live very close to them and you can hear the music doesn't mean it's unreasonable.
Right.
So that's the way the ordinance is currently written. There is no quiet time written into it. My problem with writing in a quiet time is we are a very rural community. We are spread apart in a lot of our portions of the community. A lot of people have weddings in their own property and their fields and those types of things. So if we put in a quiet time from say 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., okay, so your wedding happened at 4 o'clock, you only get till 10 o'clock at night to celebrate your wedding. Those are types of things, and that's just a simple example that, yes, I as the chief of police can say, we're gonna give you till midnight, here's your variance, you can go till midnight, you're fine. But those are types of things that putting in a block time for quiet times, I guess we can call them, it's very hard to kind of stick to, and those are the people that you're gonna have push back on quiet times. Reasonableness built into your ordinances is a lot better, because then you can have a reasonable person, the law enforcement officer, and I'm not saying that the residents aren't being reasonable when they make the phone call, but a lot of times when those phone calls are being made, there's already a neighbor dispute going on there in the first place. So the third party that's coming in to make that determination is usually the police officer who has nothing to do with any of it, comes up and says, that's not unreasonable for the time of day, or holy cow, that's ridiculous, you need to turn your music down. So those are things that if the board wants me to, we can look at changing and updating the noise ordinances a little bit. That way we can look at those and make some changes to them. I wouldn't necessarily say to put the fireworks into the noise ordinance. In my opinion, if we're gonna do a fireworks ordinance, it should stand alone as its own ordinance, so that everybody understands what the fireworks ordinance is.
It's a lot to it. I think it's something sometime we can talk about, you know, all of us.
Again,
You know,
I don't know.
because I have gotten, over the last 5 years, a lot of, you know, my horses are going crazy, my dogs, you know, is pissing all over the house because people are letting fireworks off, you know, in an unreasonable time. So it does become an issue. Unfortunately, not all of us, you know, think about our neighbors, and that's where this all comes.
And that's unfortunately why the police department deals with so many quality of life calls that normally you wouldn't expect to be a police issue, that you're calling the police department on a quality of life calls. And fireworks complaints normally fall under just that, a quality of life call, because they're not unsafely setting off the fireworks. They're just setting off a lot of them. They decided, you know what, I'm gonna splurge and I'm gonna spend $1,000 and I'm gonna show my kids a wonderful 4th of July. Well, your
And the
next door
neighbors
neighbor,
too.
your next door neighbor
Yeah.
doesn't like fireworks, their pet doesn't like fireworks, they're a veteran who has PTSD that really gets amped up from the fireworks. Those are things that a lot of people aren't knowing nowadays.
Yeah.
So those quality of life calls are a lot of the calls that we deal with right now. We get.
Yeah, I think like the 4th of July is off the table. Unfortunately, that's what happens, you know. But you know, I'm just you know, some of the calls I've gotten is through, you know, all summer, you know, and it does. Not that I don't like. I like fireworks. So I'm not. You know,
I'm not
trying
saying
to
they don't happen throughout
be
the
the fun
year.
sucker. It's just you know, there is people out there that, you know, unfortunately just they don't want to hear it, you know, at 12 o'clock at night through the whole summer. I mean,
And
but
I don't
yeah,
disagree with it. I'm one of those people that I don't want to hear fireworks at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I also believe that, okay,
and
just because
unfortunately,
I don't want to hear it doesn't mean that you don't.
and unfortunately, there are people that they're out there that shoot them off at that hour.
Yes, sir.
And you would think that they would have some sort of respect, but it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, you know, you have to go to this different avenue. But for me, I would want less government in my life. You know, I personally don't want to have to go this avenue.
Correct.
But you know, we'll look at it. We'll talk about it. I'm fine with it. You know.
And that's why I'm bringing it up, because I know that's in the past that has come up on your radar. So if those are things that you want me to work on, I can work on those and we can review them and we can get them written up.
Yeah.
So that you have the opportunity to work and look
Yeah.
at them. Once I get these written up, I'll send them back to you. Once you guys are good with the wording for them, you can give them to Ernie. Ernie can send them out to legal, and then we can set up whatever public hearings we are required to have for the ordinance changes that we are making. Some of them we will not have to do an actual public hearing for the ordinance changes that we're making, because if you're just making a change to a fine on some of these, you don't have to have a public hearing. If you're just changing some of the wording or changing the format of it, you don't have to have a public hearing. But some of the ones where we're adding physical penalties into it, you may have to have a public hearing on those.
Okay.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank
You
you,
good?
Chief.
All right, you should have, do you have the copy of the minutes?
Of
You guys need anything else from me?
no.
Nope,
Thank you. Have a good night.
thank you. Go home and have some dinner.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, are you talking about the sign for approval? Because I don't know that anybody's had a chance to look at them yet, or, because you should have a copy.
Right,
Yeah,
but the
right, you can do, I do have those, and
yeah,
you have those as well. I mean, you can just,
scan the non-public, because we need to go ahead and,
yeah, and if you look at the way they're written, I don't know that there's any real need to seal them, because but you can make that decision.
no, honestly, I don't.
No. There's
I
no
don't
need
see
to
any
see them.
reason, I don't see any reason to.
No.
do it. Okay. Next, I do want to talk about the issue that we had the other night with the YouTube stream, which we seem to be having a problem this evening with the video portion, but not with the audio portion. Is that still correct, as far as you know?
Actually, I just, I was talking with one of the residents that's out there and confirmed the audio is working. The video is not, so I'll check out camera connections and everything tomorrow and see what the problem is.
Okay.
But I don't, that doesn't explain what happened last night. I don't really no, I mean, you took a screenshot of it and it was showing the blue sky, which I think is what it's doing. Actually, I just looked at it, it's got the old picture just like that on it.
Right.
So,
I don't know what the issue was, but we will work to figure out what's going on with the camera. But at least tonight we do have audio via the conference call as well as the YouTube live stream. So I apologize for that happening the other night. I did listen to a portion, actually several different portions throughout that conference call live stream, which we will upload so that everybody can hear that. And I didn't really, other than a car going by occasionally and that, I thought it was pretty clear. So, Bernie, do you have anything you want to add?
right, I did download the WAV file, and when these minutes are posted, I mean, these are draft minutes, so I'll put
Right.
them up tomorrow morning first thing. People will have that link, they can go and listen to it, but you know, essentially, you know, there's no need for you to actually ratify the decisions that you made. These will be posted tomorrow, and it'll be clarified there. Everything was fine because you did have the pre-conference call going and it was working properly. You know, I would suggest that, you know, this summer, I mean, I don't know how hot it gets in here. I don't remember getting too unbearable last year, but we had windows open during the meeting, and that caused some disruption. Every once in a while, something loud would go by, but you could hear the discussion was accurate from what I listened to today.
And I just want to apologize too, not to interrupt, but sometimes there's lapses because we're looking over documents and that, and there was one part of that file that I listened to where it was like, we're not saying anything, but it was because we were looking at stuff. So you have, I hate to say that our meetings can be a little boring, but I mean, it does sound a little, you know, when you have lapses like that, it does sound a little boring. So I apologize for that. Really, there's nothing different that we can do with it, honestly, that I can think of. But that's it for me.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, you know, last night it was not done intentionally or maliciously. It's just something we got to look at, get this, I don't know if we can get back, are you going to get back bay or how are we going to move forward?
Yeah, I will. And I mean, as I was just the gentleman who contacted me via email has suggested the YouTube feed might not be good, but that you're getting audio, so that seems to be fine. It's possible that maybe there's a bad connection with the camera. I know when you know, Bob was in here a few weeks ago showing us how to do this. You know, if you do it incorrectly once or twice, it takes it 10, 15, 20 minutes to reset itself, possibly. So, I mean, it took a good couple of hours to get it to reset that day.
Or maybe we could ask Tom McDougall where he's set this up and has taken it down, you know, 50 times.
Yeah, and the other thing is you just still have that $5,000 you got from MetroCast to deal with this, and you know, maybe there's an easier way to set it up so that it's more dependable and more easily operated by the various boards, committees that do use it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll do that. And again, apologies to anybody who was inconvenienced by it last night.
It happens.
All right.
Yep.
You got anything else, Andy?
I'm
I'll
good.
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Andy Rawson, aye.
Erin Hutchings, aye.